In late September 2025, Tehran made headlines by claiming that Russia had delivered a new batch of Mikoyan MiG-29 fighter jets to Iran. This announcement quickly drew international attention, as it marked a significant development in the region's shifting military landscape. Abolfazl Zoravand, a prominent member of Iran's National Security Committee, publicly stated that the aircraft were already on Iranian soil and had begun deployment with the Air Force. The news was delivered with a sense of urgency, underscoring the importance Iran places on modernizing its military capabilities. The MiG-29, while not the most advanced jet in Russia's arsenal, represents a substantial upgrade for Iran's Air Force, which has long struggled under the weight of international sanctions and a lack of access to modern equipment. For years, Iran's air fleet has relied on outdated and often unreliable aircraft, making any new addition noteworthy. Iran's current fleet is a patchwork of aging American, Russian, and even some European jets, many of which date back to the 1970s and 1980s. The arrival of even modestly updated MiG-29s could provide a much-needed boost, potentially shifting the balance of Iran's defensive posture and giving its pilots access to more reliable technology. Zoravand described the delivery as a stopgap measure, an interim fix to address immediate needs while Iran continues to wait for more advanced and powerful systems to arrive. This suggests that Iran views the MiG-29s as a temporary solution rather than a long-term answer to its Air Force modernization. The move also signals a deepening of military ties between Moscow and Tehran. With Russia remaining one of the few countries willing to supply Iran with high-end arms, this delivery highlights the growing strategic partnership between the two nations, especially as both face increasing pressure from the West. However, it's important to note that the MiG-29s are fundamentally older generation aircraft. Their arrival suggests ongoing delays or obstacles in Iran's pursuit of the far more advanced Sukhoi Su-35, which has been a long-standing goal for the Iranian military. The addition of MiG-29s highlights both the limitations of Iran's current capabilities and the persistent challenges it faces in acquiring next-generation fighters. Despite the fanfare, these jets are not a game-changer, but rather a stopgap in a much larger struggle to modernize. For now, the MiG-29s serve as a temporary solution to Iran's urgent security needs in a volatile region, buying time as Tehran continues its search for more advanced military hardware and navigates the complex web of international arms deals. Iran's decision to base the new MiG-29s at Shiraz's Tactical Airbase 7 is telling. Located deep in southern Iran, Shiraz offers strategic depth, shielding the jets from preemptive strikes by adversaries like Israel. From here, the MiG-29s can project power over the Persian Gulf, a hotspot for regional tensions and vital energy routes. The base is already a hub for Iran's legacy fighters, and has the infrastructure and skilled personnel to quickly integrate new jets. This deployment sends a message to Gulf neighbors, especially Saudi Arabia and the UAE, that Iran intends to contest the airspace more robustly. While a handful of MiG-29s won't close the technological gap, their presence complicates adversaries' calculations. It's a strategic move to bolster Iran's layered defense and signal resolve in the region. The arrival of new MiG-29s is significant, marking a rare moment of modernization for Iran's Air Force, a force that has long struggled to keep pace with its neighbors and adversaries. For decades, Iran's Air Force has been in a dire state, with many of its aircraft grounded or cannibalized for spare parts, and entire squadrons left to bake in the desert sun. Iran's most capable jets, F-14 Tomcats, F-4 Phantoms, and F-5 Tigers, are relics from before the 1979 revolution, originally supplied by the United States when Iran was a close Western ally. Decades of international sanctions and isolation forced Iran to rely on reverse engineering, black market parts, and remarkable ingenuity just to keep these aging aircraft flying, often well past their intended service lives. The fleet is old, hard to maintain, and technologically outmatched by regional rivals and the US, whose air forces operate the latest generation of fighters with advanced avionics and weaponry. Iran's attempts to buy new jets have yielded only a handful of MiG-29s from Russia and Chinese J-7s, both of which are already considered outdated by modern standards. The Air Force also absorbed some Iraqi jets that fled to Iran during the Gulf War, adding to the patchwork of aircraft types and origins. This eclectic mix of planes from different eras and countries creates constant logistical headaches, complicating maintenance, training, and operations, and leaving Iran vulnerable in the skies. Lacking a credible modern air force, Iran has increasingly leaned on its growing arsenal of ballistic missiles and developed asymmetric tactics, like advanced air defenses and fast attack boats, to deter threats and compensate for its aerial shortcomings. The quest for new fighters is not just about prestige, it's driven by the urgent need to address this glaring weakness and ensure Iran's ability to defend its airspace in a rapidly changing region. The MiG-29s, while formidable in their own right, are not the jets Iran truly wants to define its air power. These aging fighters, once considered cutting-edge, now struggle to keep pace with the rapidly advancing technology fielded by regional rivals and global powers. For years, Tehran has set its sights on the advanced Sukhoi Su-35, a next-generation fighter that promises to transform the Iranian Air Force. With its superior radar, maneuverability, and weapons systems, the Su-35 represents a leap into the future, offering capabilities that could shift the balance of power in the skies over the Middle East. Iran reportedly paid for up to 50 Su-35s, aircraft originally built for Egypt but never delivered. Hopes soared as reports emerged of a deal, but the long-anticipated delivery has been repeatedly delayed, leaving Iran's air force in a state of limbo. The arrival of Russian Yak-130 trainers briefly raised expectations, signaling closer military ties and the possibility of more advanced hardware to come. Yet, the Su-35s themselves remain elusive, their arrival always just out of reach. Unconfirmed reports, official statements, and even blurry satellite images have fueled speculation, but so far, there is no concrete evidence that operational Su-35s have arrived in Iran. Analysts point to a range of possible reasons for the delays. Russia's own urgent war needs, shifting diplomatic priorities, or unresolved financial arrangements. Each factor adds another layer of uncertainty to the already complex deal. For now, the MiG-29s serve as a stopgap, both a political gesture and a military placeholder. They symbolize cooperation between Iran and Russia, but also underscore the limitations of what has actually been achieved. These jets allow both countries to claim progress, yet the dream of a flanker-equipped IRIAF remains just that, a dream, tantalizingly close but still out of reach for Iranian pilots and planners. For now, Iran must settle for incremental upgrades and creative workarounds, maintaining its aging fleet while waiting for its long-held modernization ambitions to finally materialize. Alongside fighter jets, Iran claims to be acquiring advanced air defense systems from Russia and China, including the S-400 and HQ-9. These systems would dramatically boost Iran's ability to deny enemy aircraft access to its airspace. However, there's no independent evidence of such deliveries. Both China and Iran's own officials have denied any S-400 or HQ-9 deals. These bold claims may be aimed at boosting domestic morale or deterring adversaries through psychological warfare. For now, the idea of an Iranian sky shielded by S-400s and HQ-9s remains unsubstantiated. The reality is that Iran's air defense upgrades are still more rumor than fact. Iran's rush to modernize was spurred by a brief but intense war with Israel in June 2025. Israeli airstrikes reportedly devastated key Iranian military targets, exposing major weaknesses in Iran's defenses. Iran's prized S-300 air defense systems were destroyed, shattering the illusion of invulnerability. The conflict revealed that Iran's current technology and tactics are no match for a sophisticated adversary. This failure has pressured Tehran to accelerate its search for new fighters and air defense systems. The war also exposed gaps in doctrine, training, and operational integration. Advanced hardware alone isn't enough. Effective use and resilient command structures are essential. The ease with which Israeli forces neutralized Iran's best defenses was a wake-up call. For Iran, the lesson is clear. Modernization must go beyond new weapons. It requires a comprehensive overhaul. The MiG-29 deal is part of a broader Russia-Iran partnership, deepened by shared adversaries and necessity. Since Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Moscow has relied on Iranian drones for its war effort. In return, Iran expects advanced Russian military technology. The arms deals, especially for fighters like the Su-35, are seen as payback for Iran's support. However, Russia's own war needs strain its ability to export advanced systems. Even Russia's Air Force struggles to maintain its MiG-29 fleet, making exports to Iran challenging. This may explain why Iran is getting older, MiG-29s instead of Su-35s. The deal lets Russia fulfill political commitments without weakening its own forces. It's a pragmatic, if imperfect, solution reflecting the realities of war and alliance. Despite Tehran's announcement, there's no independent proof the MiG-29s have arrived. In today's world of satellite imagery and open-source intelligence, hiding new jets is nearly impossible. The claim comes from a politician known for bold, sometimes unverified statements. Such announcements often serve domestic or psychological purposes rather than reflect reality. Without photos, videos, or satellite evidence, the MiG-29 story remains unconfirmed. This fits a pattern of ambiguous, sometimes misleading military procurement claims from Iran. Until concrete proof emerges, the arrival of new Russian jets is just a rumor. Whether real or rumored, the MiG-29 story underscores shifting security dynamics in the Middle East. Iran's push to modernize, and its growing alliance with Russia, is closely watched by regional and global powers. Even a few new fighters could force rivals like Israel and the Gulf states to reassess their military strategies. The US, with its forces in the region, must also adapt to a potentially revitalized Iranian Air Force. Any upgrade, however modest, could spark a new cycle in the regional arms race. The MiG-29s, if confirmed, symbolize a crack in Iran's technological isolation. They mark a tangible shift in the Moscow-Tehran axis and challenge the Western-led order. The Middle East's balance of power is evolving, and these Russian jets, real or not, are part of that story.